What's up, War Room? Welcome back. Happy New Year's Eve. Final episode of 2025. Joe and Connor fresh off recording a very long pod about Aaron Glenn where I think we talked it through well. It was a good therapy session, a little extra therapy session. CR, we're going to answer a bunch of questions, including some sobering statistical analysis about the likelihood of a Jets turnaround. But data, is helpful. But how you feeling?
I think pretty good. It sounds like you're about to tee me up with some real doomer stuff. So I guess
I'm gonna put
right into it.
I'm putting my professor glasses. I'm gonna put my professor glasses on. Here we go. So we had a Seton Hall student reach out to us named Priya, offering to do some research and analytics for us, which we love to hear. We love when people reach out at Badlands. And we got a great question from Trick Play Tanner in the Discord, basically being like, we keep saying it's unlikely for Aaron Glenn to turn things around, but like, how unlikely is it actually based on NFL history? So I gave Priya this prompt, and I'm going to run through it very quickly. These are examples of 2-year turnarounds with no coaching change. There's a common theme in all of them. The Rams, 1998 to 1999, Dick Vermeil, went from 4-12 to 13-3. What do you remember about that team, CR?
I mean, the offense.
Kurt Warner. He came out of nowhere. That's why it happened. 2000 right. Patriots, 5-11. 2001, they went to 11-5. Do you remember what happened that year?
The quarterback that we know all too well.
1987, Sam Weish, 4-11 to 12-4 in a Super Bowl appearance. A friend from a local market, Boomer Esiason, had an MVP season. And a recent
Boomer's
one,
MVP.
2015 Cowboys, Jason Garrett, go from 4-12 to 13-3. Do you remember what happened at quarterback that year?
What year was it?
2015 to 2016. 2016 is when they made the leap.
Dak's rookie year?
Yep, Dak and Zeke, rookie year.
Yep.
Now, if we extend it out a little bit and give it more time, where there's a 3-year turnaround, Carolina Panthers, 2001 to 2003 with John Fox. They went 1-15, 7-9 to an 11-5 Super Bowl appearance. This is mostly on Delhomme becoming like decent and a really good defense and long time ago.
Defense was sick. They had good skill talent around Delhomme too, didn't they?
Yes.
The 2003 Panthers?
Yeah.
So 2003 Panthers, who won the division with an 11-5 record. I remember Delhomme just being, he actually threw 19 touchdowns and 16 picks. He was not great. He completed less than 60% of his passes, but
Sanchez-esque.
Steven Davis ran for almost 1,500 yards, and receiving, they had kind of a weird offense, but Muhsin Muhammad and Steve Smith Sr. were very effective. You're right. That was a defensive team. Really good. They ran the ball and played defense.
Recent one, Bengals, 2019 to 2021 with Zach Taylor, 2-14, 4-11, 10-7, Super Bowl appearance, Joe Burrow. Yep. Atlanta Falcons, who the Jets should have beaten the Super Bowl in this era, 1996 to 1998 with Dan Reeves, 3-13, 7-9, 14-2, Chris Chandler, Dirty Bird, Jamal Anderson. That's what it was. And the final one, Dallas Cowboys, 1989 to 1991. This is a pretty common one reference. Jimmy Johnson, 1-15, 7-9, 11-5 on the back of the Herschel Walker trade and Troy Aikman's development. The final summary we have here, 2-year turnarounds are generally highly uncommon, and the examples are statistical anomalies. 2-year turnarounds are more common and realistic. In all examples, the emergence of a quarterback is the common factor. Of the last 10 teams with 3 wins or less, only 3 retained their head coach. Of those 3, only 1 team had a record of 500 or better the following year, the Detroit Lions in 2021. Oof. If you look at the last 10 teams that had 3 wins or less and retained their head coach, there were not 10 qualifying cases in the modern Super Bowl era. There were 7 instances found, and of the 7, only 1 had a record of 500 or better the following season, the Detroit Lions, which by all accounts everywhere is a major statistical anomaly. So what I take from this data, and thank you, Priya, again, for pulling it together, is you need a quarterback. You need a quarterback. Unless you're going to have an exceptionally elite defense and running game, and it's a weird year in the NFL, like the Panthers and I would say the Falcons, that version of the Falcons, like Chris Chandler was like whatever. Like that's kind of the only way.
Yeah, but here's why I don't like that one. This is an amazing study. You said Priya did all of this, right?
Shout out Seton Hall.
Yeah,
Jersey,
shout out
baby.
Seton Hall. So the Falcons is the one where, like you just said, you're like, well, they're kind of the outlier where you don't need the great quarterback. Here's the problem with using the Falcons, and you have to because they've fallen to the bucket. Yes, they went from they were improved in 98. They were 14-2, but you know what they were in 99?
What?
5-11.
Yeah.
Chandler wasn't very good, and that was the year Jamal Anderson tore his ACL after he had a nuclear year the year before. And then 2000, 4-12. And then they actually gave Reeves another shot, a couple more years.
Patient
and
Falcons.
7-9, 9-6-1, I guess fired. And then they went 5-11. So like, yeah, they turned it around. 14-2 is 14-2. Dirty Bird year, like you said. But the running back the next year tears his ACL and it all falls to shit.
Yep. And they should have lost to the goddamn Jets in the Super Bowl that year. I have to again say it one more time. That was our Super Bowl to win.
Yes. The theme is, I mean, the theme of this is, to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, is two things. One, it doesn't happen very often, right? It feels like way more often than not it doesn't work. And two, when it does, 95% of the time, it's you find a elite quarterback.
Yep. That's it.
I mean, not to simplify one of the most complex sports in the world, but I think this is very easy to simplify.
You want the Jets to immediately compete. Effectively, you're drafting Mora Mendoza, and they get very good very fast. That by 2027, like you're a serious like contender, and you're in the mix because those guys are like really good. Or you would have to get a fluke Rich Gannon, Ryan Fitzpatrick veteran type season from the right bridge quarterback, and I don't know. That's like you get Kirk Cousins and he goes to like Italy or Germany and gets his like legs reboosted up and he has like an amazing season out of nowhere. And it's like 2015 because you have Garrett Wilson and two other great receivers and he's just throwing it all over the yard or something. But like you said, statistically, very difficult. This one from Izzy. I wonder if you remember more about this than I do. What if AG pulls an Al Groh? Maybe because I wasn't a fan back in 2000. Why did that happen, and why did Groh live after 1 year? And would Glenn ever do this? If I remember it right, didn't Glenn or Groh get offered to coach at his alma mater? And that was like, it was too good of a thing to pass up. Still weird because Jets were 9-7 that year and were pretty good. But who was the first guy Aaron Glenn mentioned at his press conference? Al Groh, who he still talks to all the time.
That's right. So Groh, what a weird time that was. Groh, who was born in New York City, and I think he grew up on Long Island. Went to Chaminade, but he was a defensive end for Virginia. But there was something deeper than that. Obviously, it was. So he had permission from Parcells to interview for the University of Virginia job, and he resigned from the Jets.
Jets having a coach resign every 3 years at that point.
No, but I'm reading some stuff, and this is starting to kind of bring back memories. And I was young during this, but I remember my dad like being very bothered by this. The team did not like him. Like I think that Jets team. It seems like that Jets team really didn't like him too much, and then he went to, like you said, his alma mater, where he got to coach for almost a decade. So it's really a weird situation, though.
He was Parcells' handpicked successor, and they started 4-0 that year. They won in Lambeau week 1. And that was the season that ended with Vinny's like 110-yard interception return and a bad crash out to end the season. But a very weird kind of chapter in Jets history. This one from Flip 007. What would be the most Jet? Wouldn't it be the most Jet thing ever to win on Sunday? Also, what is the most That's So Jets moment? I know the butt fumble is high, but I'm going with the Fail Mary because I think that's the strangest event that ever happened. I kind of got one last week with 2 fake punts and you didn't even cross the 50-yard line because I've never seen that in my life.
Never seen it.
As we addressed in the previous pod, we don't think the Jets are going to win Sunday. I will say that I don't like to talk about the butt fumble. It's just I can't. Sadly, the most Jets moment, and I still have sports PTSD from it, was the Rodgers injury.
I was going to say, this is so much easier than it's made out to be.
That has to be it, right?
It felt like you, if you are a religious person, I think in that moment you looked up at the sky and said, like, does God hate the Jets? And if you're not, you sat there and you were just like, you start to like have spiritual thoughts if there's a black cloud, rain cloud over the team. That's how you think, whether you are religious or not. You feel like something like out there where you're like, this can only happen to the Jets after all that buildup.
The text messages I got that day, that night, because we recorded late that night after I got back from the game the following morning.
In the city that night.
Were like a family member had died. That's how every person I had ever met in my life texted me about it, checking in on me, saying, even people who like break my balls about the Jets all the time, Giant fans, Patriot fans, in-laws, third cousins. I still haven't wrapped my head around it. I mean, we'll probably do a separate docuseries on this down the road when it passes a little further, but getting jitters talking about it. All right.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
EGB. What is the best strategy for a bunch of our late round picks, particularly 5th through 7th round? Jets are loaded up in the 5th to 7th round this year, which is always fun for a nice long Saturday for you and for probably me and Meeks, just doing pod after pod about Tyler Barron. What could we effectively learn from last year? And what kind of players, or is there any names to keep an eye on? I know we're early draft guide days here, but what do you learn from year 1? And how do you make it better in year 2? How do you go 50% on day 3?
Well, it's so funny because like the real answer to this is learn how to evaluate but in all seriousness, because they clearly know how to evaluate. They could have taken other players besides Membu. They could have taken other, like the Azaria Thomas was, to me, it's weird. Okay, Azaria Thomas is the better one to land on here, right? Let's pull up the consensus board for the 2025 NFL draft. Why this is a good process to draw back to. So the consensus board, let's pull up, I want to pull up the full rankings here. And really, okay, so let's look for Azaria. So Azaria Thomas was 52 on the consensus board from probably like 200 big boards that usually comes down to. And the Jets took him 73rd. So basically he fell, and consensus board doesn't mean everything, but if you want some perspective here, what do you think Arian Smith was on the consensus board?
225.
274.
Oh, yeah, that was right. I can tell you that, watching that dude play.
What do you think Tyler Barron was?
260.
Let's see if he's... All right, so Barron on the consensus board was actually 179, which really surprises me because... Man, I had him way later than that. So
I don't think he wasn't in the guide, right?
I don't remember. I evaluated him for my top 320, but he was not. Yeah. Anyway, the point is, Arian Smith's maybe a better one to use here. And I'm not saying to use the consensus board, but when you have such a, like, leading up to the draft, honing in on your own work and not being affected by outside noise is sometimes the most important thing. But if you're a team, when you get all those evaluations and everything done, you should be using the consensus board, I think, to kind of, in the words of my co-host Chris Sims, like self-scout thyself and wonder, why do we love this player 150 spots or whatever more than what a wide range of people that do this for a living are saying? And you might be right? But also, even the weird ones, because people are like, well, look at the Rams getting Puka Nacua in the 5th round. He still went in the 5th round, and let's see what Puka was on the. I still don't think it was that off the board, right? So, like, Puka Nacua, it was 189 on the consensus board that year. And Puka was drafted 177. So never mind. Not even a good example. But the point is, I think to improve that kind of process, like sometimes you got to be careful just outthinking the entire world. Not the room, but the world. And the Jets did that with Kiko, Arian Smith, and Tyler Barron. You got to have something typically. You either need to be highly productive in college or great measurables with size and speed. Arian Smith, across 5 years of college, not a productive player. He was a colossal outlier in weight in terms of how skinny he was for an NFL wide receiver.
Yep.
And the tape was bad. He couldn't catch. So that to me is a process of like, how did we get here? Did we just think since he was a track guy that we liked the speed and we'll figure out the rest? So there's a lot of big people that are fast. So I just think that, man, like it's really a low-hanging fruit kind of thing to say, but just if you think you're out thinking the world, you're going to, I was told when I was scouting, make a living betting on outliers and you'll be broke. And you could pick outliers in your spots, but like you can't make a living betting on outliers. And it felt like the Jets got very cute on day 3 of the draft last year with outliers, which is one of those, like, it's my first draft things to do. I'm smarter than everyone. And then you kind of get rocked in the jaw and you're like, okay, there's a reason.
Yeah, I think have a plan B. I think it's kind of been out there. The Jets wanted to take Kyle Williams. They missed him. And they're like, well, shit. Like, we want our version of Jameson Williams. We need the next burner on our board. And we're just not going to risk losing our guy again. So we're going to take him. And what happens when you do that is Isaiah Williams beats him out for a roster spot. He doesn't play anymore. So, yes, have a plan B in place, have a fallback. Now you have a whole offseason to build. There's no excuse that you have holdover scouts or holdover anything. It's your guys now. It's your show. All right, from Jesus, considering the draft and free agency, which non-quarterback position do you guys think is easiest need to fill this year for AG and Muji? A receiver with how much talent is in the draft and theoretically available in free agency and the trade market. I just feel like there's a lot of options out there. Like, how many receivers are going to go in the first and second round this year?
Let's see. I just did receiver rankings. So first round, Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, and maybe Denzel Boston from Washington, maybe Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M. And then second round could be like a wide range of 7 to 8 other players. So 12 to 14.
Jesus. Okay. So, I mean, how do you not leave the first 2 rounds with a receiver then?
You have to.
I mean, so I think that's kind of your easy answer. And even if you somehow don't
wants to know what's the most likely position that they leave with.
Well, what's the easiest, basically? Like, all right, like you look at all your options this offseason. We need receiver, we need edge, we need safety, we need linebacker, we need guard. Like, what's going to be the easiest one to fill that's not a quarterback?
Yeah, wide receiver.
I think even if you want to go the free agent route, like Pierce will be a big money free agent out there. Trade market, could a guy like DJ Moore be available? There's always receivers who are available, like surprisingly via trade. That of the Packers' 19 receivers, like 4 of them will be available. Like, there'll be guys out there that you can get. Safety, I have the panic that the 2 guys that we like that you keep bringing up are going to get gobbled up immediately. And it's like, Jesus Christ, just get a safety who could intercept passes. Every game I watch now, I can't even enjoy it because every team has a safety that intercepts passes. What I was sadly thinking about today is, you know how whenever there's a turnover in the NFL, everyone has to run to the opposite end zone and like do a celebration for the camera? The Jets, since they have 4 turnovers this year, and one was the Will McDonald touchdown, which was unconventional. One was in deep garbage time against Jacksonville, so no celebration. They've had 2 chances to do it all year. They had the first drive against the Saints, and the first drive against the Broncos, and obviously no interceptions. So that's just a sad thing. Like, if you were a defensive player in the NFL, it's probably like what you joke about in practice. Right. You want to do it. I don't think I even saw the Jets do it in either celebration, which is probably fine considering how bad they are. But man, 0 interceptions is really going to happen.
They don't even know what to do because it's so rare for them.
They wouldn't even know what to do with it. Jet fan smack. What would you do if each of you randomly won $1 million? What a nice non-football
That's question. A fun question. You know what's weird, though? Not to say I think about this a lot. The only reason this has recently entered my brain is it's the time of year where all the best ball contests end on Underdog and Draft. And like, you see a lot of people tweeting and celebrating, and it's awesome. It's like, it's life-changing money for people. And I'm like, man, what would you do? Honestly. Because $1 million is, I don't want to sound this way, but $1 million's not enough money where you're just like, you're never seen from again.
Yeah. It's, unfortunately, you're not taking off to the great West or something.
I wouldn't be able to just like go buy a house in Ireland and nobody ever hears from me again. And like, but it's an interesting amount of money where, like, obviously you could have a lot of fun and be smart with.
I think I'd probably put the $1 million on Bills -7 and see if I could immediately double it.
And then you'd have $2 million.
Yeah, and go from there. I would have to spread a bunch of money between my kids' college funds, and then I would put a bunch of money into Badlands probably and keep building what we're doing so I could spend more and more time doing this, which is fun because I get to rant about this ridiculous team.